Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are continuing the lineup prediction series today as we take a look at your Los Angeles Kings out on the West Coast. The LA Kings have been in a rebuild, and Rob Blake has kind of turned the roster around. Probably has one of the best prospect pools in the NHL. And we're going to start to implement some of that into the lineup for opening night of the 2021-2022 NHL season for the LA Kings. So let's get right into it. So looking at their lineup here, you got a couple of pretty good players here. And I really like what they've got in terms of some of the young guys. They've implemented some guys from trades and free agency. So we're going to get an idea of that here. So you got Alex Iafallo and Anze Kopitar playing alongside a new player, a new face to the team. Victor Arvidsson came over in the offseason for a second and third round pick, I think, at the beginning of the offseason, right after Tampa won the Stanley Cup. Like 2 or 3 days later, Rob Blake made that trade, bringing in Arvidsson. He's going to add some scoring ability, a sniper ability to that lineup. I really like what they've got there. Really good top line. Iafallo can get in front of the net. Kopitar can pass the puck off. Again, he's a good two-way center, which I think will allow them to get the puck more. And you also have Arvidsson, who can score from the top of the circle. He's a good scorer, got a great release. Struggled last season, had some injury issues. Definitely wasn't handled the best by the Predators, and I think that's why he wanted out. I'm not sure if he actually asked for, requested a trade, but I know things were definitely not on the best terms at the end of his time there. You look at the middle six, you got Adrian Kempe, Philip Deneau, and Quinton Byfield. I do have some concerns about some of the new faces. Obviously, Quinton Byfield, a really talented guy. You could argue he should play center on the third line maybe, but I think he's better off getting more minutes in the top six and allowing him to play on the wing. I think he's better suited there right now. And Deneau, I think Deneau, there are some questions. Can he score goals? Is this second line going to score any goals? I think there is some concerns about that. They actually have Kempe, Deneau, and Dustin Brown as the second line center on daily faceoff, but I'd rather see Byfield get more minutes and avoid the center role right now, so that's why I have him on the second line wing. Third line, you got Gabe Vilardi, Andreas Athanasiou, and Dustin Brown. And this is another line, other than Gabriel Vilardi, can they score enough goals? There's been issues with Athanasiou and his scoring abilities. Dustin Brown had a great season last year, except he's not going to be playing with Iafallo and Kopitar this year. They've added some more depth. So now Brown goes to the third line. Is he more of that player that we saw a couple years ago? And not necessarily the player that he was last season. So again, you could put Vilardi or Athanasiou at the center role. I think some people would rather see Vilardi there, which I do agree with. I think Vilardi just, I don't know. I think Athanasiou is an experiment, and do you want to put him at the center spot? I don't really know. I'm just fixing it right now because I did have Athanasiou at the center role. So Vilardi down the middle, I like that a lot better. Now, the fourth line is interesting, too, because you got some more young guys. You got Blake Lajoie centering that line. You also have Trevor Moore and Jarrett Anderson-Nolan. A couple of guys there that we've seen. Trevor Moore, again, more of a penalty-killing guy. Same thing kind of for Anderson-Nolan. He can play center as well. So in the event that a guy like Vilardi or Lajoie comes down with an injury, God forbid, you can throw Anderson-Nolan into that spot as well. Now, looking at their depth, a lot of just bigger guys. You have Austin Wagner, Brendan Lemieux, who they traded for at the deadline, and Carl Grundstrom. Interesting to see a big piece of the Jake Muzzin trade out of the lineup. Just Grundstrom doesn't really fit in. I think any of those guys can fill out Dustin Brown or Trevor Moore's spot. But in terms of just adding pure goal scoring, they're not really getting that from the depth. It's going to come from the top guys like Arvidsson, Byfield, Vilardi. They're lacking some scoring here. There is some concern about that. And that's been one of the critics of the Kings this summer. But I think the way Rob Blake is building this team, kind of like himself, more of a big body team that wins puck battles, wins pucks in front of the net. And there's that little touch of scoring with Victor Arvidsson just to kind of sprinkle that in just a little bit. Looking at their defense, You got Mikey Anderson as a top pairing defenseman alongside Drew Doughty. I think that worked well last year. I think we'll see that continue. Second pairing, I do have my a little bit with the second pair on the left shot. It could be Tobias Bjornfot or Alex Edler. I have Edler starting this season. Again, veteran, tie goes to the veteran. I think that's what we'll see with Edler on that second pair. I think it fits better with Nicholas Waugh, who will play on the right shot, which I just think that works out better. Again, as a mentor to Waugh, I think that works quite well. And you also have Bjornfot and Walker, Sean Walker and Bjornfot on the third pair. No real concerns there. I think that's a pretty good third pair. But again, the lack of defense, it is there for the LA Kings. And I think that's why they brought in Edler. But even with Edler, I'm still a little bit on the fence with their depth on the second and third pair. Depth-wise, out of the lineup on the scratch pad, you have Olli Maatta and Christian Wolanin. Wolanen's going to get a chance to get into the lineup here with guys like Bjornfot and Walker. Specifically, Sean Walker on that right side. I could see Wolanin jump in there. And Olli Maatta has had a lot of injury issues. I think that's why they have him out. He may even be on the LTI to start the season again. So, I'm not really sure why they made that trade to bring him in from Chicago. They kind of helped out Stan Bowman there, but they wanted more defense. And they saw what he did in Pittsburgh when he was drafted. He's fallen far from that. And I think they were really relying on him. And because he hasn't developed into that, they really do have a big hole in that top four, which I think is a little bit of a concern. When you look at even at the Pacific Division, there are some thoughts that maybe they don't make the playoffs, and I think a lot of that is because of the lack of scoring and the lack of depth on defense, maybe why the LA Kings just aren't right there yet in terms of making the playoffs. Now, the good thing is there is some depth here up front that they could still add that isn't in the lineup. And I'm talking about Alex Turcotte, who looks like he's going back to college, but you got Alex Turcotte and Arthur Kaliev. So you got those two guys who could still jump into the lineup, and they could both add some scoring to this team. So if they do well in training camp, you may say bye-bye to guys like Trevor Moore and Athanasiou in this lineup for them to jump in. And maybe at that point, if you need a winger spot, maybe you put Byfield down the middle on the third line, and then you bring in guys like Kaliev. You also have guys like Rasmus Kupari. I mean, they've got some really good depth here in LA. I think Rob Blake has done a good job there, but like I said, how much consistent scoring can they get from some of these guys? That's really the biggest critique with their forward group. And like I said, defense, they need another defenseman there, because that, if they want to make the playoffs, I like Anderson getting some minutes. I like Waugh getting some minutes as well, and even Bjornfot. But there is just some, like, a little bit of angst to, once there is inevitably an injury on that blue line, who comes in? And I do worry about that a little bit for the Kings, especially if they come out of the gate strong, have a good start to the season, and maybe hit some bumps along the road, especially with some of those rookies like Byfield and Velarde. Well, Velarde's not a pro. You get what I mean. Velarde's still young. So I think there are some, there's going to be some growing pains this year for the Kings. But I think long term, they are a really good team. In terms of making the playoffs, I wouldn't bet money on the Kings making the playoffs. But they're a team definitely to watch. Once we get to the deadline, what do? Do they add more scoring depth? Or maybe do they continue the rebuild and continue this process? And then in between the pipes, you got Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick, which I think is a pretty good tandem. I think Quick started the season off really well last year. Again, kind of dipped again. He just wasn't able to do it for the full season. And again, that was a shortened season last year, only a 56-game schedule. And he still wasn't able to do that for that amount of time. So Cal Peterson, now the starter in LA. I think it's pretty clear from what we saw at the end of last season in LA that is how things look long term. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, and more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, make sure to check out our Streamlabs shop down in the description at the end of this video. Support the channel, maybe pick up a coffee mug, maybe pick up some other stuff. We also have a Patreon link if you want to support the channel that way as well. As always, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you again next time.